And now we're going to talk about Mars. Pauli Laine, explain to us everything about Mars, please.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. And thank you for having me here in this wonderful webinar. So my presentation is human Mars exploration versus planetary protection. I won't be talking much about planetary protection policy issues, as we heard from Linda and others in their previous talks, but I have here a summary slide. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, I have here a few points for human Mars exploration and against it. So the first point or claim is that human Mars exploration is more versatile and flexible than robotic exploration in tasks like finding signs of life, either extant or extinct, and so on. And the next point is that some people say that Mars is our next logical step into universe, and exploration is in the nature of human nature. So if we want humankind to expand into universe, that's our next logical step. Also, if we someday will destroy our planet, or for instance, killer asteroid will wipe out life on Earth, we should have some kind of safe haven for life on Earth, and that's one of the easiest place to set up some kind of a colony for not only humans but also some other forms of life on Earth. And the few con points here are, of course, that the question of contamination, either forward or backward, is very difficult, and it's always have to be taken in account. And we don't know if there is or has been life on Mars, so that's a very, very strict scientific task to take that into account. And there are also some ethical questions. I'm not a philosopher, but we have heard some comments and talks about if we have a right to colonize or use resources of Mars. So these are some small points I wanted to bring out now, and I wanted you to also share your pros and cons for human Mars exploration. Thank you.
William.
Yeah, thank you very much. We always hear the argument that robotics are not to be used on, or not as efficient as humans in areas like the moon and Mars for a number of reasons, because they can't sense the environment in the way that humans can. They can't ask questions while they're out there. But the one thing that is always sort of makes me grimace at that response is that we're looking at robotics that exist in the year 2020. And if we look at what robotics might be able to do in the year 2040, I would believe they would be a lot more efficient. And if there was an orbiting human presence that could control them, that would cut the time lag, then it would seem that robotics would be far cheaper, far more efficient, and much better at sensing that environment. And so the thought that I've always had is that, you know, hold off on humans going to Mars, wait another couple of decades, and robotics will be able to do that in a cleaner manner. And I wonder if you had thoughts on that.
Okay, thanks for interesting ideas and thoughts. Of course, you mentioned that humans orbiting Mars could shorten the lag between the probes on the surface. And that gives me an idea of telepresence, of using some instruments from the orbit and not landing on the surface. That would be quite novel idea of using instruments and, for instance, finding some signs of life there.
Or I guess on the, you know, on one of Mars's moons, establish a presence there where its contamination is not quite as much of an issue, and then control robotics from that position.
All right, Neil.
Thanks, Pauli. Like a lot of things, it seems to me that you kind of learn by experience, and the wise thing to do would be to have limited missions, human missions to Mars, just to see how it goes. We can't really know how much benefit we'll get out of those missions until we try it. And the right response is to think, what's the smallest scale human mission, maybe in terms of cost or effect on Mars, but that we could pull off, and then see how that goes in comparing it to robotic missions.
Yeah, thanks. That was interesting. Also, yes, some have commented that if you should send some astronaut to Mars, it should be an astrobiologist. So some small crew.
Right.
Okay, Linda, did you have a question, or did you just leave your hand up? Okay. Well, I have, I guess, a comment. I'm not sure it's exactly a question, but I mean, in your presentation video, you talk a little bit about how we may have already contaminated Mars, which I think is debatable. I mean, the solar radiation is so high on the surface that it seems like we probably haven't contaminated it much, if we have at all, but whatever. What I'm kind of interested in is this sort of underlying intuition that lots of people have, which is that if we have contaminated it already, it becomes somehow more defensible to contaminate it more. And it doesn't seem that really follows. Like, even if we have contaminated it, that doesn't seem to me to be in any sense a justification for further contamination. So I was just curious what you had to say about that.
Yeah, I recall that there was this Ranger or some other probe on Moon that Apollo 12 crew took some parts back, and there were some living organisms there. That so it's quite possible that there are some organisms that we have already taken there. But as you said, it doesn't. If you find some Earth organisms there, it doesn't give us right to contaminate it more, as you say.
Linda, did you have your hand up, or is that just left over from last time? I'm assuming it's left over.
No, it wasn't left over. Sorry.
Okay,
I'm just
go
trying
ahead.
to get my hand down now.
Okay.
Pauli, I wrote a paper for a NASA history conference several years ago, and I hope it will be published in a proceedings this coming year about the story of USmidas on the moon. The story was that at a lunar science conference, two scientists who were involved in examining the parts of that Ranger camera said that they grew USmidas in the lab and that it had survived for 30 some months on the surface of the moon and then came back to life in the lab. At that same conference, there were two other people involved in the same analysis who said that it was ground contamination in the lab because clean room procedures had been violated, and it took years and years and years for John Rummel, who was then Planetary Protection Officer at NASA headquarters, to find actual video documentation. He was so determined to tell this story straight that he scraped up some money to hire some consultants to search the National Archives and do a lot of interviews. And it was proven definitively that it was lab contamination. You saw guys putting their hands in clean room boxes with no gloves. They were wearing short sleeve shirts. There were just so many visually documented violations of clean room procedures. And USmidas also is not a spore forming bacterium. And so it wouldn't have gone dormant on the moon and then revived itself back in more clement conditions. And but it was established in so many official sources, that original story, that USmidas was taken to the moon, survived for 30 some months, came back to Earth and came back to life. But that particular story has been disproven thanks to John Rummel. And I'll be happy to send you my paper if you like.
Okay. Thanks, Linda, for your comment.
Okay, Brig, I see you're holding up your physical hand, so I'll call on you.
I apologize. I couldn't find, I think I was clapping instead of raising my hand. I'm
That's
Brig
okay.
Slice from Memphis, and I have a website about panspermia and my panspermia allies. This question is for Linda. My panspermia allies think that they already found life on Mars when the Viking LR experiment detected life by the pre-established criteria. But since then, it seems like NASA won't even look for life, even though Gil Levin, who designed the LR experiment, has a simple modification that would resolve all the doubt about the previous one, and they just won't even talk to him. And so it seems to be that NASA won't look for life on Mars. They are against it. Am I right or wrong? Can you please tell me?
You are incorrect, because as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you were online, for a number of years, my colleagues at NASA headquarters did not want to talk publicly about life detection, but they are now in the Mars exploration program. Certainly the whole point of Mars sample return, which will not happen, I'm sorry to say, on the schedule currently proposed, because it's going to be ridiculously expensive, but that's the whole point of Mars sample return, to look for evidence of fossil life, more likely than extant life. And my colleagues, my astrobiology colleagues at NASA, tell me that Gil Levin and his colleagues continue to do good work, and they continue to make their case that they found life, but the significant majority, I don't want to say, well, I guess I could say it was a consensus, because it's still a very small component of the astrobiology community who believes that experiment did detect evidence of life. But the consensus opinion, and this has been studied by the National Academy of Sciences and many other scientists in the community, but that's currently the consensus, that that labeled release experiment did not detect evidence of life. And at best, everything I've looked at, and I'm not a natural scientist, I'm a social scientist, is that it's questionable. That claim is questionable. So that's where things stand, as far as I know, with my colleagues in astrobiology.
Can I follow up? If we had met last year, I was going to present a paper about a fossil on Mars that was seen by the Opportunity rover in 2004. Are you at all aware of that fossil?
I'm aware of those claims, and again, those claims were not proven.
No, the actual fossil that was photographed on February 27th in 2004 at Meridian plenum.
I know what you're talking about, but again, the consensus in multiple examinations by multiple people of that imagery is that it's not a fossil.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right.